What happened on this AGT stage will stay with you long after the video ends. A shy Filipino teen walked out hoping for a chance. But just 10 seconds into his song, Simon Cowell stopped him cold. The audience gasped. His dream felt like it was slipping away right in front of him. But what happened next? Nobody, not even Simon, was ready for it. This is the kind of comeback that gives you chills, the kind of moment that proves talent, heart, and courage can rewrite destiny. If you love emotional stories like this, subscribe to Kindness Diaries for more. The studio was buzzing long before the cameras rolled. The massive America's Got Talent sign glowed like a beacon above the stage, and everything inside the theater vibrated with nervous excitement. Hundreds of people filled the seats, whispering, clapping, adjusting their phones to record the moment they might witness something unforgettable. Stagehands rushed behind curtains, producers adjusted headsets, and every few seconds a judge's light would blink, a signal that yet another audition was about to begin. Behind the stage curtain, a thin Filipino boy stood quietly, gripping the microphone with both trembling hands. He wasn't wearing anything flashy, just a simple white shirt tucked into black pants, polished shoes he borrowed from an uncle, and his hair combed back in that classic Elvis Presley style. But what truly stood out was the mixture of fear and hope swirling in his eyes. He wasn't just here to sing, he was here to make someone proud. He was here for his family, for the people back home, and for the tiny dream that had lived inside him since he first heard Elvis on an old radio. A producer crouched down beside him. "You ready, sweetheart?" she asked gently. He swallowed hard. I think so." When the stagehand finally waved him forward, he stepped onto the stage like someone stepping into another world. The lights hit him instantly, bright, blinding, and warm like miniature suns stabbing into his skin. The audience stared at him with curiosity, some smiling kindly, others whispering, wondering what this shy boy would do. The judges sat in front of him like four giants whose reactions could change his life. Heidi gave him a warm smile. Sophia adjusted her microphone. Howie leaned back in his chair, studying him. And then there was Simon. Elbows on the desk, hands clasped together, eyes focused on him with a mixture of skepticism and interest. "What's your name?" Simon asked, his voice calm but sharp. The boy took a breath. "My name is Miguel. I'm from the Philippines." A soft wave of awe came from the audience. Some even clapped. "And what will you be doing for us today?" Simon continued. Miguel looked down at the microphone in his shaking hands, then back up. I'm going to sing Elvis." A ripple of surprise moved through the room. "Elvis? From this shy-looking teenager?" Simon raised an eyebrow. "All right then. Good luck." The music started. A soft, familiar guitar intro filled the theater, the kind of sound that immediately brought back memories of the king of rock and roll himself. Miguel closed his eyes for 1 second, inhaling deeply. This was his chance, his only chance. He opened his mouth and began to sing. His voice came out soft, fragile, like a flickering candle in a storm. The notes were accurate, the tone promising. But something was missing, something wasn't clicking. His nerves were overpowering his talent. The pressure of the stage, the lights, the eyes of thousands. It all came crashing down at once. His voice wavered, his throat tightened, his fingers gripped the microphone so hard they turned white. 10 seconds passed, 10 shaky, uneven seconds. And then Simon moved. Simon slowly raised his hand. It felt like the entire world froze. The music stopped abruptly. The microphone fell silent. Miguel's heart hammered in his chest so loudly he could hear it echoing in his ears. His stomach twisted into a knot. His knees weakened. He wasn't sure if he should step back, speak, or simply disappear into the floor. The audience gasped. People exchanged confused looks. Some even frowned, whispering, "Already? That fast?" Others sighed sympathetically, sensing that this young boy's dream may have just shattered right in front of them. Miguel stared at Simon, eyes wide, breathing shallow. Had he failed? Had he really come all the way from the Philippines? Just to be stopped in 10 seconds. Backstage, his mother pressed her hands against her mouth. Tears gathered at the corners of her eyes as she whispered, "Please, please don't let this be over." But on stage, Miguel stood frozen, like a bird caught under a spotlight. Simon leaned forward, elbows still resting on the judge's desk, looking at Miguel with an expression that wasn't cruel, but wasn't soft either. It was serious, focused, heavy with expectation. "Miguel," he said, his voice echoing across the silent theater. "I stopped you because I can hear something in your voice. Something good. But this," he pointed gently toward the speakers, "this isn't you. You're terrified, you're holding back. And I want to hear what you really sound like." Miguel blinked rapidly, confused. The silence stretched. Then Simon continued, "Take a deep breath. Don't do an impression. Don't try to copy someone you admire. Just be you. Start again. When you're ready." The crowd stirred, whispers turning into supportive claps. Some shouted, "You got this." Others whistled and cheered. A wave of encouragement flowed toward him, like warmth pushing away the fear. Miguel stumbled over his words at first. I thought I messed up," he admitted softly. Simon shook his head. "You didn't mess up. You hid. Now I want to see you step forward." For a moment Miguel didn't move. His chest rose and fell quickly as he fought to control his breathing. His vision blurred slightly with emotion. Every doubt he had ever carried sat heavy on his shoulders. What if I'm not good enough? What if they laugh at me? What if I fail in front of the world? But then he remembered something. His grandmother's voice. Those late evenings back home when he would sing with her, barefoot on the tiled floor. The smell of warm adobo drifting from the kitchen. The radio crackling softly in the background as she told him, "Migs, when you sing, don't copy. Feel." He closed his eyes. He inhaled deeply, then slowly. He lifted his head. The theater lights no longer felt scary. The judges no longer felt like giants. And the audience suddenly felt like friends. With trembling hands, he repositioned the microphone. Simon nodded gently, giving him the smallest but strongest gesture of encouragement. And for the first time since stepping on stage, Miguel truly felt ready. The theater was silent, the kind of silence that didn't feel empty, but heavy, charged, waiting. Miguel stood in the center of the stage, eyes closed, his breath uneven, but something inside him shifting. The words Simon said still echoed in his mind. "Don't hide. Show us who you really are." No judge had ever spoken to him like that before. It didn't feel harsh. It felt honest. And that honesty sparked something inside him. A flame that had been quietly burning for years but never given the chance to roar. He loosened his shoulders. He wiped his palms on his pants. He inhaled deeply, letting the cool air fill his lungs. Behind him, the giant LED screens glowed softly blue, reflecting off the polished stage floor. The audience leaned forward in collective anticipation. Even the judges sat differently now, not just waiting to judge, but waiting to witness. The music director held his hand above the soundboard, ready to restart. Miguel nodded slightly. The music began again. This time, Miguel didn't panic, he didn't shrink. He didn't think about the thousands of people watching him or the cameras capturing every tiny move. He thought about home. He thought about the small room where he first learned to sing, with peeling paint on the walls, a rattling electric fan, and the old radio his grandmother kept wrapped in lace cloth. He thought about her encouraging eyes, her soft laugh, her voice telling him again and again, "Sing with your heart, Anak. Not from fear, from love." And when Miguel opened his eyes again on that massive AGT stage, he wasn't timid anymore. He lifted the microphone with steady hands. He rolled his shoulders back, his feet planted firmly like roots growing into the stage. When he began to sing the second time, the sound that escaped from him didn't resemble the first attempt at all. This voice was alive. It was rich, warm, bold, and wrapped in emotion so raw it felt like it poured straight from his soul. His vibrato was cleaner, his pitch stronger, his tone deeper, carrying that unmistakable Elvis warmth, but now layered with something even more powerful, Miguel's own heart. The audience reacted instantly. People who were once simply watching now felt the music. A wave of energy washed through the room, pulling people to their feet slowly, almost involuntarily. A murmur of awe spread like a breeze. Heidi's eyebrows lifted as her lips parted in surprise. Sophia leaned in closer to the table, her hand pressed to her chest. Howie stared, nodding without even realizing he was doing it. And Simon Simon broke into a small, stunned smile. Miguel didn't see them though, not yet. Because he was lost, beautifully, completely lost. In the moment. His voice grew stronger with each line. His confidence pulsed through the theater. He moved slightly with the rhythm, tilting his head, controlling the mic with a natural instinct he didn't even know he possessed. Every emotion he had bottled up, fear, hope, longing, poured out through the lyrics. He hit a long note, one that soared across the room like a streak of light. The audience reacted with a burst of cheers, clapping along with the beat now, fully invested in this transformation happening right in front of their eyes. Even backstage, crew members stopped what they were doing. Cameramen paused mid-step. Producers froze in place, watching the monitors in disbelief. Miguel wasn't just singing, he was claiming the stage. He reached the chorus and his entire demeanor shifted again, this time into something fiery. His feet moved with confidence as he took a step forward, projecting his voice into every corner of the theater. The richness and fullness of his tone sent chills through listeners. It didn't matter that he was just a teenager. He sang with the spirit of someone who had lived 1,000 emotions, and finally found the courage to release them. The iconic Elvis resonance in his voice made older audience members tear up with nostalgia, while younger viewers felt a strange, thrilling electricity they couldn't explain. By the second verse the audience was cheering between lines, by the bridge they were shouting his name, and by the final chorus, the performances no longer felt like an audition, it felt like a moment that would be replayed on YouTube, TikTok and television for years. Miguel opened his eyes wider, scanning the crowd for the first time. When he saw their reaction, the standing, the cheering, the hands waving, the faces lit with amazement, his confidence swelled so powerfully he nearly lost his breath. His heart thumped not with fear now but with joy. Tears slipped down his cheek but he didn't stop. He pushed harder, letting every ounce of emotion explode into the last powerful note. He reached it, held it, A, D. At that moment, time stopped. The light behind him intensified into a golden burst. The audience rose to their feet entirely now, roaring with applause. The judges stood too, not even waiting for the final note to fade. Simon's expression had changed completely. Gone was the skepticism, replaced with something warm, something proud, something deeply impressed. Miguel felt it all at once, the noise, the lights, the awe, but most importantly, acceptance. He didn't just recover from the stumble earlier, he turned it into a story no one would forget. By the time he dropped the final note and lowered the microphone, tears streamed down his cheeks, his chest rose and fell rapidly, but it wasn't from fear anymore, it was from triumph. He had come back, stronger, louder, braver, unforgettable. And everyone in that theater knew it. For a moment, the entire theater hung in suspended silence. The kind of silence that didn't come from emptiness, but from overwhelming disbelief. Miguel stood center stage, trembling. The microphone lowered in his hands, his final note still echoing faintly in the rafters, like a ghost of the emotion he had just released. His chest rose and fell rapidly. He blinked through the tears threatening to spill from his eyes. Then, like a sudden explosion of light, the theater erupted. The applause struck first, thunderous, powerful, rolling through the room like a wave crashing onto shore. Then came the cheers, the whistles, the screams of pure exhilaration. People rose from their seats so quickly that chairs rattled. Phones shot up into the air. Entire rows stood with their hands high, clapping above their heads, shouting his name even though they had only known him for a few minutes. Miguel, Miguel, Miguel. The chant began with a few voices. Then it spread. Then the entire theater was saying it. Backstage, crew members who had been busy setting up for the next act forgot their tasks completely. They crowded around the monitors, mouths open, some even clapping quietly, because they knew they had just witnessed a moment that didn't happen often. A true underdog comeback. Miguel looked out at the sea of people, stunned. He had imagined singing on a big stage before, imagined applause, imagined smiles, but he had never imagined this, an entire theater rising for him, louder than any dream he had ever dared to picture. His eyes overflowed now, tears dribbling down his cheeks, mixing relief with gratitude. But then, the thing he least expected happened. Simon Cowell stood up. Not slowly, not hesitantly. He stood up like someone who had been struck by inspiration itself. The moment Simon's chair pushed back, the audience's screams grew even louder, because people knew how rare that gesture was. Simon didn't stand for just anyone. He didn't stand unless something truly incredible had taken place. Miguel's knees nearly buckled when he saw it. His hands flew to his face as he tried to contain the emotion that flooded him like a tidal wave. Simon looked at him with a warm, genuine, almost fatherly smile, a smile that transformed his entire face. The stern, calculating judge had been replaced by someone who saw potential. Someone who saw heart. He raised the microphone and spoke over the crowd. "That is what a comeback looks like." The room fell quiet instantly. Everyone wanted to hear every word. Simon continued, voice steady but filled with meaning. "I stopped you because I knew there was something inside you, something real, something powerful, and you just proved it. You didn't give up, you didn't fall apart, you came back stronger than before, and you delivered a performance I'm never going to forget." Miguel covered his mouth as tears streamed freely. He wasn't crying from sadness. He was crying from relief, victory, validation, and a happiness so overwhelming it felt unreal. Sophia leaned into her microphone, her own eyes filled with emotion. "Miguel, you didn't just sing. You told a story. You reached into every heart in this theater and made us feel something. That is talent. That is magic." Heidi nodded vigorously, clapping even as she spoke. "You are a star. The voice, the courage, the heart, everything about you tonight was absolutely beautiful." Howie leaned forward next, pointing at him in disbelief. "I don't know if you realize this, but we just watched someone transform right in front of us. You went from scared to spectacular in seconds. That's what greatness looks like." Miguel listened to every word as if each sentence added a new piece to his soul. He tried to absorb it all, but it felt too big, too overwhelming, too miraculous to fully comprehend. The theater lights dimmed slightly, leaving a warm glow around him like a spotlight from a dream. The audience continued to applaud, refusing to stop, refusing to let the moment fade. His mother, still backstage, burst into tears, covering her mouth with both hands. A producer beside her whispered, "Your son just made history." She could only nod, barely able to breathe from the surge of pride swelling in her chest. On stage, Miguel tried to speak, but when he lifted the microphone his voice cracked. The judges smiled sympathetically, encouraging him. He took a deep breath. I thought I failed," he began, voice shaking. "I thought when you stopped me, it was over." Simon leaned forward, eyes kind and steady. "No, Miguel, that wasn't the end, that was the beginning." The audience cheered again, filling the room with warmth and excitement. Miguel blinked slowly, trying to hold back more tears. "Thank you. Thank you for giving me another chance. This means everything." Sophia clapped enthusiastically. "You earned every second of this applause. Every second." Miguel's heart swelled with something he had never felt before. Not just happiness, but belonging. He belonged on that stage. He belonged in the spotlight. He belonged in front of the world. The time for voting came next. Heidi spoke first. "It's a big yes from me." The crowd cheered. Sophia smiled warmly. "Absolutely yes." More cheers. Howie pointed at him dramatically. "Yes, 100% yes." The applause reached a new peak. And then it came down to Simon. He paused deliberately, letting the suspense draw every viewer to the edge of their seats. Then he smiled softly, the kind of smile that said everything without saying a word. "Miguel, it's a yes from me." The theater exploded. Miguel cried harder, smiling wide. His mother sobbed backstage. The judges clapped proudly. The audience rose once again, filling the theater with a roar of triumph. Miguel stood taller now, no longer the scared boy who was stopped in 10 seconds, but the rising star who came back strong, and earned a standing ovation. It was more than an audition, more than a performance, more than a comeback. It was the moment his life changed forever.